Hey everyone, I recently beat Alan Wake for the Xbox 360 for the very first time, and I did it using the Xbox One backwards compatibility. I was about 80% of the way through my playthrough when the remaster was announced during the PlayStation Showcase. So let's go over my thoughts on the 11-year-old game and what I want to see from the upcoming remaster. This is a game I would regularly hear people mention for one reason or another, but I just kept overlooking it. In fact, it's a game I've owned physically in my collection for probably 2 years, and it just stayed in my backlog the entire time. I was always interested in trying it, but there was always something else that intrigued me a little bit more at the time. But this past week, I finally decided to give it a shot. When I first loaded into the game, I had zero idea what to expect. I've never read any plot synopsis or seen any extended gameplay. I had just heard good things about it and knew that people looked back on it fondly, so everything about this experience was brand new to me. The game is broken into episodes and is designed to replicate a TV show, and I think it worked extremely well. It really helps break the game up, which for a lot of games would be a really bad thing, but because this is trying to emulate a TV show, where usually you have to wait a week for the following episode, then I think it fits perfectly. It allows the player to binge the game if they choose, or stop after each episode for a food break or whatever else. And if you have roughly an hour before you already know you need to leave your home to go to work or something, then you know you'll have a very good moment at the end of an episode to save and quit until you come back, instead of quitting in a section where it might be confusing to come back to. I actually played the entire game in sessions according to the episodes. One episode in the afternoon, one episode at night, and I continued that for a few days until it was done, and I think it worked extremely well. From a storytelling perspective, it worked great. Each episode had a beginning, middle, and end, and none of the episodes overstayed their welcome or were awkwardly short in comparison. It helped break the story into coherent sections that flowed quite well. The visuals of the game were pretty good for the time. When being compared to today's standards though, they were a little lackluster at times. But the visuals of character models and roadside buildings weren't as important to the visuals compared to the totality of everything to create a specific atmosphere. The atmosphere is dark and gloomy, and the color palette for the game really helps to portray the mental struggle the character of Alan Wake goes through. It's also not lost on me that the game basically only takes place at night and in the dark, but the town location is called Bright Falls, and honestly, I think that's hilarious. The sounds in the game, however, while fitting well for the game and type of enemies they are, definitely overstay its welcome. The screeches from the darkness were essentially non-stop, and eventually did get to be extremely repetitive and made me want to turn the volume down regularly. The writing was really good though. I thought the characters were well defined by their actions and dialogue. The story itself is not something I'm typically into though. I don't usually play survival or horror games, and I'm even more unlikely to watch scary movies, but when they create a proper thriller atmosphere, I'm more likely to enjoy it. I prefer more creepy and eerie scenarios versus jump scares. I don't really care if I'm fighting zombies, aliens, or ghosts. If the atmosphere is the scariest part of it, I'm more likely to enjoy it. I also really enjoyed how they portrayed the character of Alan Wake himself. Being a writer and needing to survive, he clearly wasn't a trained military person or anything like that, and it was more realistic when he could only run for a short distance because he's not in great shape. The story in a nutshell is that Alan Wake is trying to save his wife while also trying to understand the paranormal events that are happening all around him. He realizes he needs to understand and defeat whatever mysteries are happening in order to even have a chance at rescuing his wife. The gameplay wasn't anything groundbreaking. It definitely had some things that I think can be improved upon for the upcoming remaster, but I also think it did a lot of good things. The fact that there wasn't an overload of weapon options is something I really enjoyed. It really gave me the chance to understand when each weapon should be used instead of having one item that's so overpowered that the rest of the weapons just don't matter. I also appreciated having the radar, even though in my mind I thought this should be a game that doesn't have one. I think not having one would help increase the tension of trying to get yourself out of a forest, but having the radar really helped streamline the game. And it also helped me know which is the wrong direction, because if you go down a wrong way, you're bound to find a collectible. I was always able to see a fork in the road. Go the wrong way first, find something, then go the right way. As a gamer, I really liked it, but for the experience of the creepy atmosphere, I kinda think it should have been removed. Personally, about 40% of the way through the game, I did switch the button layout. I think the alternative button layout made more sense to me. I also think the run and dodge buttons should be separate. I personally just struggle with trying to dodge an attack, and instead of the animation happening, I would just stay fairly upright and start running, but then get hit in the back or something. It's not something game breaking, but I'm so used to games having a designated dodge button that I really missed it here. I think the idea of needing to harm the enemies with light before being able to shoot them is an interesting mechanic, and it works quite well. It makes sense within the context of the story, and it helped make the game feel much more unique compared to a lot of other third-person shooters. But on the other hand, I did notice a lot of tropes that were a little overused. The one that bothered me the most was going into a cutscene, having a conversation, then leaving the cutscene with basically no ammo. While ammo and flashlight batteries weren't exactly uncommon to find within the world, I did find it frustrating to regularly be expecting all my ammo to randomly disappear after having a cutscene. I do understand why they did it, it's a way to artificially increase the difficulty, but I think it was a little overused. I also noticed a crazy amount of light bulbs burn out whenever I was near. I understand within the context of the story, the darkness effect could be the reason why these lights are being destroyed, but I feel like it happened extremely often, to the point when one would stay on permanently, it would actually surprise me. But even with those issues, the game is something I really enjoyed, and those issues didn't ever leave me wanting to stop. Honestly, I think the game still stands up in 2021 and doesn't even need to be remastered. But that being said, I'm happy it is getting remastered. I have a couple of things I would like to see from it. First, I know they already announced that DLC will be included, and I think that's the most important thing they can do for the game. And of course, updated graphics and load times, but I think that's standard for any remaster. But personally, I would also like to have the separate buttons for run and dodge. I think it'll help the combat quite a bit. Because the game already has a radar, I would like a stamina meter for his run. I get it, he's a writer, and it would be a very short stamina meter, but that doesn't matter. I think it'll just be a nice quality of life improvement. But I also think they should give the option for the opposite way. Get rid of the radar, because there is no logical sense in my mind why there is one. He's in a location he's never been before. He shouldn't know the correct direction to go all the time. But I am good with either way. Give me a radar and a stamina meter, or give me nothing. I just think giving the player only one is the option that feels weird to me. The camera wasn't terrible, but sometimes it could be a little difficult to see. Sometimes it would go behind a tree or an overturned truck or something and you just couldn't tell what was going on. It wasn't terrible, but general updated camera angles to bring it up to today's standards would be nice. I would also like to see full customizable button mapping instead of just having two options. I don't expect this one, but it's something I would appreciate. At the end of the day, I don't think there's too much that actually needs to be done. Better load times, updated graphics, and the DLC is the bare minimum, and I think just that will leave the game as a pretty good experience, because the core game itself is really good, and anything else added in would be a nice feature. As someone who doesn't usually like horror type stuff, this is a game that I really enjoyed. There wasn't a lot of padding to make the game longer. There wasn't a lot of continuity issues or boring moments, and I really liked the format the game was presented in. Being split into episodes worked really well. I definitely see myself playing the remaster at some point. Maybe not day one, seeing as I just beat it, but definitely within the first year of release. If you haven't played it before, I highly recommend it. Even if you want to wait for the remaster, I'm sure it'll be good, assuming there's no game crashing bugs or anything like that. I hope you enjoyed my thoughts on Alan Wake. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, it really helps out the channel a lot, and don't forget to share the video with anyone who might enjoy it. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe for more video game related content. Thanks for making it to the end of the video, and thanks for watching. I gotta say though, that enemy screaming is something I can go my entire life without ever hearing again.